Our selection for today will be These Are They.
Of Israel, coming up before the throne of the stories grand to tell of the burdens they had borne. You saw another marching crowd of the number none had known, shouting glory loud and they march around the throne. These are they from every nation who have washed their garments white, coming up through great tribulation to a land of pure delight, coming up from every nation on the way to the crowning coming up through great tribulation to a land of pure delight. It was on Wednesday morning, out on a lonely isle, in the beauty of the dawning, as John was in exile. He heard a voice resounding across the rolling sea, like mighty billows abounding. John fell down on his knees. These are they from every nation who have washed their garments white, coming up through great tribulation to a land of pure delight, coming up from every nation on the way to the crowning program, coming up through great tribulation to a land of pure delight. These are they from every nation who have washed their garments white, coming up through great tribulation to a land of pure delight.
The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua HaMashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as become saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Today we're going to deal with clean and unclean, and as it ends up dealing with some situations here that take place on the earth. Now, when we consider the clean and unclean laws given to the children of Israel, we find that there are direct instructions as to what animals can be eaten and which animals should not be eaten. Today, a lot of people believe that these are outdated and ineffective statutes that need not to be observed for salvation to be accomplished. Many believe that all food was cleansed with Peter's vision and all things are to be accepted. This gross misunderstanding of Scripture has caused grave situations on the earth as sickness has multiplied to epidemic proportions. We're going to begin today's sermon in 1 Timothy chapter 4. First Timothy chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5. Oftentimes when we try to explain to people how pork, swine is a bad thing, they say, well, I've been eating it for a long time and nothing has happened to me. And what people miss is the way the body builds up immunity to certain poisons. And what happens is your body builds up an immunity to that poison, so it allows you to poison yourself for a longer amount of time. And then almost all of them, when they get to a certain age in life, when their body is not as strong as it was in their younger years, they then get that statement from the doctor, you need to stop eating pork. You should have never started. Now your body is not strong enough to fight off the poison that you continually dump in it. So it's one of those things that when you consider it, this is the same thought process behind a vaccination. You give yourself the actual ailment. and tricking your body to become immune to the disease or the issue. So this is what's happening with pork, and our people end up believing that there's some good thing there because they don't get sick right away. But Yahweh's word is true, and we're going to get into it on another level today. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 4, and let's start that at verse 1.
Now the Spirit speaks expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
Now, seducing spirits doesn't sound the way that it's read there. It doesn't appear unto us when we deal with it. See, seducing spirits is us wanting to entertain other things. A seducing spirit don't come up to you and say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm a seducing spirit." Then you know, exit stage left. I don't think I need to deal with this. No, it's going to present itself as some very fun thing from maybe a different culture, a different something, but it just seems inviting. It's not going to say that it is a seducing spirit. Okay? So these things that we will end up encountering, you have to, deal with. Yahweh has placed each nation in their own land. Because of mass travel, we move all over the world. But when you talk about righteousness at the end of this book, you notice one thing. Yahweh says every man under his own vine and fig tree. Everybody go where he had put you. He's got this thing. Now, the people who want to go with Israel have the choice to make. Just like there was a mixed multitude that went out of Egypt. They said, "We will go with you." And that's written. "We will go with you, for we heard that Elohim is with you." But when they do that, they also know that they're going to have to walk on a deeper level of that righteous law than what they would have to walk in their own land. They still got a level of that law that they're going to have to walk in. But if they're going to come with us, they got to walk on the level that we walk. Go ahead.
Speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meats, which Elohim has created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth.
Which believe and know the truth. Now, that encompasses a whole lot. Because you have people who do not believe and do not understand the truth. And this is that part where they say, "You see, you can eat everything. It's written right there." He said, these people, they tell you to abstain from meat. God made meat good. Keep reading.
For every creature of Elohim is good.
Everything is good. See, that's why I eat the snails and escargot, I eat calamari. I suck it all down. Right. Keep reading.
And nothing to be refused, if it be received with thanksgiving.
They say, "I'm thankful when I eat unclean meat. I'm extra thankful." Right. Read this. Go to the next graphic and read the definition of meat, the very word that's in there.
From G1033, which means it's Greek, broma, from the base of G977, food, literally or figuratively, especially ceremonial articles allowed or forbidden by the Jewish law.
So when it says those who know the truth, they automatically understand what things were allowed to be eaten, which things were not allowed to be eaten. Now, I always tell people, be careful when you read anything and it says Jewish law. That could be talking about the Torah, or that could be talking about the halakha. That could be talking about the stuff you found in the Talmud. Okay? So be very careful when you see something say Jewish law that one of your ears should poke up. One of them ought to say, "Wait a minute now, wait a minute. Say that again. Which Jewish law are you speaking of?" Because there's a whole lot of things that people say is Jewish law, and it ain't got nothing to do with the Torah. They're talking about the stuff that was added by the imposters. So be careful how you hear that term, Jewish law. Did you finish that, brother?
Verse 5, for it is sanctified by the word of Elohim and prayer.
Right. Ain't no way you can sanctify a pig. It says, and somehow we skip over the part of those who know the truth. See, there's certain things that are implied, and you can't get past the implication of that and then jump to something else. Let's go to Acts chapter 11. And it's hard to convince our people of this because you have preachers talking about pork chops behind the altar. They sitting there singing, I can't wait to get to that pork chop. What, is he serious? He's singing about it. So they don't think nothing wrong with it. They in the church making collard green with unclean meat in there. They making it at the church. And then charge you for a plate. That's a whole nother sermon. Acts chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 1 through 18.
And the apostle and brethren that were in Judea heard that the Gentiles had also received the word of Elohim. And when Cephas was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him, saying, You went into men uncircumcised, and did eat with them. But Cephas rehearsed the matter from the beginning, and expounded it by order unto them, saying,
Now you see how pinpoint our people were about certain things? See, if they felt like you wasn't doing things right according to the word, somebody would be up in your face. See, that little term we got today, only God can judge me. No, that brother with that sword in his hand gonna judge you. He see you bringing a pork chop in there and you get cut up by the dough. No, God didn't do it. That brother right there did it. We love to say that. Only God can judge me. Let one of them brothers see you carry a pork chop near that temple. You're going to die right there. And God did judge you by his hands. Go ahead.
Verse 5, I was in the city of Joppa praying, and in a trance I saw a vision. A certain vessel descended, as it had been a great sheet, let down from heaven by four corners, and it came even to me. Upon the which, when I had fastened mine eyes, I considered and saw four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And I heard a voice saying unto me, Arise, Cephas, slay and eat. But I said, Not so, Adonai, for nothing common or unclean has at any time entered into my mouth.
Not any time. And I heard a voice saying unto me, Arise, Cephas, slay and eat. Now people say, oh man, I was spoken to by an angel or by Yahweh, the Most High. Look here. I don't care who talking. I ain't eating that. Automatically, it was his answer. Not so. I ain't eating that. I don't care who you are or what point you coming from. I'm not eating that. Go ahead.
But the voice answered me again from heaven, What Elohim has cleansed, that call not you common.
That what Elohim has cleansed, call you not common. Now, this is where on Sunday morning they'll stop reading and now the pork chop is passed all around the room. Okay? But you got to keep reading. Keep going.
And this was done 3 times, and all were drawn up again into heaven.
Right. How many people after the 3rd time, when something keep happening, then they change their position? It came to him. He stood his ground every time. No, I ain't that. Well, Elohim is cleansed, call you not common. Yeah. But I ain't that. Go ahead.
And behold, immediately there were 3 men already come unto the house where I was, sent from Caesarea unto me. And the Spirit bade me go with them, nothing doubting. Moreover, these 6 brethren accompanied me, and we entered into the man's house.
Now, the same Spirit that told him some stuff that he wasn't sure about, then told him to go with the men. Now, how many of us will automatically question that Spirit? No, wait a minute. You just told me to eat pork chop. I ain't going with you. I don't know what that is you're talking about. I ain't going. So now, we done already messed up the whole path now because we didn't understand the first part. Because it sounded like it asked us to do something unclean. Now it says, go with these men. Well, if you question the first part, you might have a problem right here. Go ahead.
And he showed us how he had seen an angel in his house, which stood and said unto him, Send men to Joppa, and call for Simeon, whose surname is Peter, who shall tell you words, whereby you and all your house shall be saved. And as I began to speak, the Holy Spirit fell on them, as on us at the beginning. Then remembered I the word of the Adonai, how that he said, Johanan indeed baptized with water, but you shall be baptized with the Holy Spirit. For as much then as Elohim gave them the like gift as he did unto us, who believed on the Adonai Yahshua HaMashiach, what was I, that I could withstand Elohim? When they heard these things, they held their peace and glorified Elohim, saying, Then has Elohim also to the Gentiles granted repentance unto life.
Right. This was about opening the door unto the Gentiles. This was unto people who they had seen as common men. This was what that was about, not about cleansing any food. But if you read those things back to back out of context, there is a whole belief and teaching going around that all of these things are to be accepted, and not just amongst Christians. We know that that is accepted amongst Christians. You would be surprised how many Hebrew Israelites, people who call themselves Hebrews, yet they don't understand what things they're supposed to eat and not eat. Leviticus chapter 11, and let's start that at verse 1. I'm glad it's been a while since y'all ate, because it's about to get interesting. All right, and y'all need to stay up with these graphics over here. We on graphic number 6. Leviticus chapter 11. Let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which you shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parts the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and chews the cud among the beasts, that shall you eat.
Very simple. This is how the foot is going to be made. This is what it's going to eat. These are the things that are edible. What do we do?
Well, you know, see, God did that before there was refrigerators.
This is the doctrine that we fall victim to.
See, what happened was, Moses didn't have a Frigidaire. That's what his problem was. See, we got a deep freezer, we got a Frigidaire, we got 3 freezers. So that stuff is cleansed in there.
Right. Keep thinking that. He gave us an instruction on how to tell if it's clean or not. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, these shall you not eat of them that choose the cud, or of them that divide the hoof. As the camel, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof, he is unclean unto you.
And see, this is that game we'll play.
Well, it do too. It says, well, look at the foot. See, we can do it.
Well, wait a minute. He gave several things. This is what we'll do. We'll pick 2 out of the 3 and say, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. 2 out of 3 give you a disease. Go ahead.
And the coney, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divide the hoof.
Right, and you got people now, back in the day, we used to go home from the candy lady and folk go and get them pig feet right out the bottom. Looked like they were growing organs in that big bottle. Hey, what it say about the swine? He divides the hoof. So you look at that foot and say, look at that, that's edible. No, that's not. Go ahead.
And the swine, though he divide the hoof, and he be cloven-footed, yet he chews not the cud.
See, he don't have number 3. See, if you just looking at that foot in that jaw, now you done bought that at the candy lady, going home, sucking on a piece of, go ahead, man.
He is unclean to you. Verse 8, of their flesh shall you not eat, and their carcass shall you not touch. They are unclean to you.
Their carcass you shall not touch. So it's set up that when something is dead, that is the carcass, you have to then prepare it to be eaten. It is already unclean to you right there. So you didn't sin when you ate it. You sinned when you were preparing it to be eaten. See, we sinned at the dinner table. Now you sinned in the kitchen. You sinned before you got to the dinner table. Your sin was in the preparation. You was on sin number 2 when it got to the dinner table. You'd already done number 1 in the kitchen. Go to the next graphic. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 9. These shall you eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas and in the rivers, them shall you eat.
Now, as adults in the word, we have to know what these things look like in both places. Meaning, we got to know what it looked like raw, and we have to know what it looked like cooked, so that we can figure out what those things are. Children are not going to be able to do that. All right? So, having some of these graphics so that kids may not know the name, but you look at these pictures, wait a minute, that ain't clean right there. These are things that we are not supposed to eat. So you go over to a relative house, and this is why folk get pushed full of all kind of unclean things. When we go over one of them relatives' houses, you know what I'm saying, who, you know, casually worship the devil. And then they feed us some of their dainties. And you try to figure out what's wrong with your kid when they get back. Kid acting all strange. What's wrong with this little boy? Right, he been sucking down poison for a day and a half. Now that poison is coming out of him. What is wrong with him? He been eating poison over in Meemaw's house. Go ahead.
And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall be even an abomination unto you. You shall not eat of their flesh, but you shall have their carcass in abomination.
If you have their carcasses in abomination, you don't even want to prepare it. Their carcass is an abomination. It is not just when you start to eat it. It was an abomination when you start preparing it.
Just folks say, look, I don't eat pork, but I prepare it for my friends and them.
Right. Well, you just saying for your friends and them. Congratulations. Go ahead.
Whatsoever has no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you.
Fins and scales. Hey, catfish don't have no scales. See, automatically Yahweh give you a way to find out this stuff ain't right. And certain things are created because they are set to make a balance in the earth and cleanse the things. These little nasty things here, they are set to clean the seas. So they are the sea's garbage disposal. Then you eat the sea's garbage disposal and can't figure out why you having issues. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And these are they which you shall have in abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination.
All right, we should be at, you at verse 13. It should be at graphic 8. Go ahead.
The eagle and the ostrich and the osprey and the vulture and the kite after his kind, every raven after his kind, and the owl and the nighthawk and the cuckoo and the hawk after his kind, and the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl and the swan and the pelican and the jeer eagle and the stork, the heron after her kind, and the lapwing and the bat.
And this is something we're going to have to deal with. And the bat. Because We got some serious issues floating around dealing with situations concerning that bat and other things that we were not supposed to consume. Go to graphic 9 and start reading at verse 20.
All fowls that creep, going upon all four, shall be an abomination unto you. Yet these may you eat of every flying, creeping thing that goes upon all four, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them you may eat, the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind.
And without reading this book, there's absolutely nothing that would have caused me to look at a grasshopper and say, I must taste that. See, this is why you have instructions. Because there's nothing ever that has ever caused me to look at such a thing and say that I want to taste it. But I tell you what, let a brother get hungry enough and let us be up out of this place and let a brother see a grasshopper and y'all gonna see me hopping right behind him. Finna get that joker. You can talk that mess when you ain't, you know what I'm saying, when you eating every day. Wait till about that second or third day you ain't ate. That grasshopper gonna look delicious. Why? Because you know it's on the clean list. But see, you need to know that now. You can't be trying to figure out, you know, we in the middle of turmoil and here you go. Trying to figure out what can be eaten and what can't. And I'm sorry, your phone might not work, so you won't be able to look up a picture of it.
Look up a grasshopper. Let me see. Is that a grasshopper?
Right. You need to figure that out now. Go ahead.
And the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying, creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you. And for these you shall be unclean. Whosoever touches the carcass of them shall be unclean until the even.
Once again, it's dealing with the carcass. All right? So that when you prepare something that's unclean, you are now in the land of sin. Go ahead.
And whosoever bears aught of the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening.
All right. Graphic 10.
The carcasses of every beast which divides the hoof and is not cloven-footed, nor chews the cud, are unclean unto you.
Right. The carcasses of every beast which divides the hoof and is not cloven-footed nor cheweth the cud are unclean unto you. So if it does not have all 3 of those things, it is unclean. Yahweh causes things to process food totally different. And the things that you are allowed to eat process food a certain way, and they eat certain things. Did you see the picture of the pig eating the dog? And then we go and eat something like that? Go ahead.
Everyone that touches them shall be unclean. And whatsoever goes upon his paws, among all manner of beasts that go on all 4, those are unclean unto you. Whoso touches their carcass shall be unclean until the even.
Do you know how many different cultures there are that eat dog? Have you ever considered, you got people who want to have a dog as a pet, and we want to hang out with everybody, and you don't know that some of your friends is looking at your dog ready to throw some barbecue sauce on it.
What kind of dog is that? Ooh, German Shepherd.
What? You trying to eat my dog? I don't think they meant that by hot dog. That's not what we. No, that's not what we eat. Go ahead.
Brother, as we touch on this, we've had issues before where people are saying, well, you can't own a dog, you can't touch a dog. This is not what this is talking about. It's talking about when the dog is dead.
You got it. When it is dead. So once you get to the point where if your dog is in your kitchen and you cutting it up, you got some serious problems with Yahweh right there. See, we waiting until we eat it to start calling it a problem. No. You was already in the problem. Go ahead.
And he that bears the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the even. They are unclean unto you. Verse 29. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth, the weasel and the mouse and the tortoise after his kind.
Now, why does Yahweh have to tell us this? Because he understands, men on the earth. We turn all of these things into so-called delicacies. And then because they give them nice little exotic names, now people are consuming these foul things and not considering the health problems that are going to come after that. Go ahead.
And the ferret, and the chameleon, and the lizard, and the snail, and the mole. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Whosoever does touch them, when they be dead, shall be unclean until the even.
And we see Yahweh is making his point that, all right, you're going to encounter, we were husbandmen, which are farmers. You're going to encounter animals all the time. When the animal is dead, now you're in a problematic situation. Are you just trying to dispose of a dead animal? Or are you trying to eat it? Go ahead.
And upon whatsoever any of them, when they are dead, does fall, it shall be unclean, whether it be any vessel of wood, or raiment, or skin, or sack, whatsoever vessel it be.
Now, what Yahweh is trying to do here is he's trying to encourage us to stay away from these things. All right? So, and upon whatsoever any of them, when they are dead, does fall, it shall be unclean, whether it be any vessel of wood, or raiment, or skin, or sack, whatsoever vessel it be. Wherein any work is done, it must be put in the water, and it shall be unclean until the even, so it shall be cleansed. So it just fall on something, that thing is unclean too. So the knife you use to cut the shrimp open, it ain't right. Go ahead.
Verse 33. And every earthen vessel, whereinto any of them falls, whatsoever is in it shall be unclean. And you shall break it.
You shall break it. So when you put it in the bowl, you got to break the bowl. That's all you got to do to stop any woman from going in there. Go in there and just start breaking all her stuff. She will never cook that again. What are you doing?
Did you put some pork in here?
You gonna take care of that business.
I ain't never cooking that no more. You came in and broke all my doggone plates, my bowls, everything. Eating out of these damn paper plates.
They gonna take care of that business right now. Right?
Of all meat which may be eaten, that on which such water comes shall be unclean. And all drink that may be drunk in every such vessel shall be unclean. And everything whereupon any part of their carcass falls shall be unclean, whether it be oven or ranges for pots, they shall be broken down, for they are unclean, and shall be unclean unto you. Nevertheless, a fountain or pit, wherein there is plenty of water, shall be clean, but that which touches their carcass shall be unclean. And if any part of their carcass fall upon any sowing seed which is to be sown, it shall be clean. But if any water be put upon the seed, and any part of their carcass fall thereon, it shall be unclean unto you. And if any beast, of which you may eat, die, he that touches the carcass thereof shall be unclean until the even. And he that eats of the carcass of it shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the even. He also that bears the carcass of it shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the even.
This is dealing with things that if you have something that you may eat, but then it died of itself. See, there's special rules of that way, especially when it comes to the priests. They couldn't do it. Where we at? Verse 41?
41.
All right, we should be at graphic number 12 now. Go ahead.
And every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth shall be an abomination. It shall not be eaten.
Right, and this is a delicacy of snakes right here. And Yahweh had already told us there's a problem between us and the snake automatically. Go ahead.
Whatsoever goes upon the belly, and whatsoever goes upon all four, or whatsoever has more feet among all creeping things that creep upon the earth, them you shall not eat. for they are an abomination.
Whatsoever goes upon the belly shall be an abomination. Yet you walk around and see people walking in the park with a snake dangled around their neck. Then folk walk up,
Oh, let me touch the snake. Oh, it's so nice.
that's an abomination you got hanging around your neck, man. Go ahead.
You shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creeps, neither shall you make yourselves unclean with them, that you should be defiled thereby. For I am Yahweh your Elohim. You shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and you shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall you defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. For I am Yahweh that brings you up out of the land of Egypt, to be your Elohim. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy.
You shall be therefore be holy, for I am holy. Go ahead.
This is the law of the beast, and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moves in the waters, and of every creature that creeps upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten.
Right. So now, if you read the things out of context that we read in 1 Timothy chapter 4 and Acts 11, now people think that this part of Yahweh's word has been done away with. Because they said every creature is to be accepted, not understanding what they're talking about. And those who have understanding of the word as of what things can be eaten, and then it's talking about ceremonial things. Now let's go to our graphic number 13, because now we have to get in some of these things that what eating unclean does. See, we think it's just some law that really don't mean anything. All right? Go ahead, brother. Start at graphic 13. Start reading there.
The name coronavirus is derived from the Latin corona, meaning crown or halo, which refers to the characteristics, appearance of the virus particles, virions. They have a fringe reminiscent of a royal crown or of the solar corona.
So when they say coronavirus, understand that it's not dealing with one specific thing. There are a family of coronaviruses. Okay? Go ahead.
The name coronavirus is derived from the Latin corona and the Greek garland or wreath, corne, meaning crown or halo. These refers to the characteristics appearance of virions, the infective form of the virus, by electron microscopy, which have a fringe of large bulbous surface projections creating an image reminiscent of a royal crown or of the solar corona. This morphology is created by the viral spikes, peplomers, which are proteins that populate the surface of the virus and determine host tropism.
Now, when we look at this graphic, this is supposed to be the number of cases of the people who have contracted the recent coronavirus. A lot of people said they lying. They say it's a lot more people that has this coronavirus than what they're telling you. They have videos that were put up on their internet where health workers just passed out in the middle of the floor and then they were removed from the internet immediately. They're having to build a hospital in 10 days. Now you're going to have to take a wild guess as to where all of this stuff comes from. See, all these things that we keep talking about, you shall not eat, they eat all in these other places. And now, with mass travel, all of these problems have spread out. This coronavirus is in one place in Asia, and then look at how it spread to all of these Asian places immediately because of mass travel. But you also have to understand that a lot of those various things that we're not supposed to eat, they're being eaten in all of these places. And it's picking up and causing some serious issues. And people will say, well, look, everybody has their own culture. Just let them have their culture. The problem is now these diseases are airborne. So now those people can breathe and pass this virus. Now we start to see why Yahshua got 144,000, because he's going to have to make the rest of the earth follow this law. People say, well, hey, they can eat what they want to eat. When you eat what you want to eat and then the rest of us die, there's a problem. This ain't just killing the people who eating it. It's killing the people that they come in contact with. And it's amazing. We will try to watch everything in the food, every enzyme, everything. And then want to go hang out in places where they eat snake. It is amazing. Go to the next graphic, graphic number 14.
In late May 2003, studies from samples of wild animals sold as food in the local market in Guangdong, China, found the SARS coronavirus.
You see where it says what SARS is? SARS is a coronavirus. So they had these problems in 2003. This ain't new. So when you hear certain things and you hear coronavirus, you think that this is a new thing. No, they had the same problem with SARS. See, that's a severe acute respiratory syndrome. Go ahead.
You know, brother, if you look at the can of Lysol in your house, you will see coronavirus on there. So it's, like you said, it's been known. Coronavirus is a virus that Lysol kills. It's on your Lysol can.
Yeah, corona ain't new. But when you just say coronavirus, bro, I don't even want to drink a Corona. Corona used to be a good high quality beverage. I don't want no Coronas now. Go ahead, bro.
Found the SARS coronavirus could be isolated from masked palm civets.
Now, I had to look this up. I was like, what the hell is a masked palm civet? Keep reading.
But the animals did not always show clinical signs. The preliminary conclusion was the SARS virus crossed the xenographic barrier from the palm civet to humans.
Right. It's supposed to be a barrier there. Okay? So they're trying to figure out how the disease that lived in one type of animal still lived in this type of animal. Because understand, an animal can have rabies and it's just walking down the street, just as fine. That rabies get to you and you start acting just like the animal. You barking and doing all kind of stuff. Go ahead.
And more than 10,000 masked palm civets were killed in Guangdong province.
10,000. Yeah, they eating them. See? Then SARS didn't just get the people who was eating them. Go ahead.
The virus was also later found in raccoon dogs, ferret badgers, and domestic cats.
All that some people eat along that continent. You find that they eat all of those things in Asia. Go ahead.
You know what's even interesting is when it was in those animals, obviously wasn't airborne. But now it comes to humans and it become airborne.
Exactly. You know, so now you just hanging out with people who like to eat strange things. Now they cough on you. And now all your air gone. Hey, what happened? You hanging out with people that like to eat dog. Now you see why Yahweh gonna have to make this law come forth. This is not just some little thing where, okay, we don't eat, because it's nasty. No, man, they can hold diseases inside their body that don't bother them. You eat it, it's gonna kill all of us. Go ahead, bro.
In 2005, 2 studies identified a number of SARS-like coronavirus in Chinese bats. Phylogenetic analysis of these viruses indicated a high probability that SARS coronavirus originated in bats and spread to humans either directly or through animals held in Chinese markets. The bats did not show any visible signs of disease, but are the likely natural reservoirs of SARS-like coronavirus.
Natural reservoirs of SARS-like coronaviruses. In other words, if you leave them alone, they got their problem, but it's inside them. It don't bother them. It don't bother you. You keep messing with it. Now it bothers all of us. And we think eating clean and unclean is just a thing. Go ahead.
In late 2006, scientists from the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention of Hong Kong University and the Guangzhou Center for Disease Control and Prevention established a genetic link between the SARS coronavirus appearing in civets and humans, confirming claims that the disease had jumped across species.
Right. Now, you have all of those things. We know that America and all other countries practice in certain kinds of warfare. So there are some reports that Russia has put out. You know, Russia look at any opportunity they can to dig off in America. So Russia said, we think America created the virus and spread it amongst them to cause a problem. So and then when you look at, you know, the gene mapping of a lot of those things, then people run into that and they say, yeah, they must have created it. Go to the next graphic.
Origins of the Black Death traced back to China.
Now, so they would have had to create that one 2,000 years ago. See, people don't change their ways unless they're forced to change their ways. Yahshua not going to ask you to stop eating mashed palm civets. He finna come and take care of some business. That's what them 144,000 for. He ain't talking. The time is out for talking. Go ahead.
Gene sequencing has revealed. Gene sequencing, from which scientists can gather hereditary data of organisms, has revealed that the Black Death, often referred to as the plague, which reduced the world's total population by about 100 million.
I'm sorry, brother. Say that again.
Which reduced the world's total population by about 100 million.
Okay, well, just let people do whatever they do. You know, 100 million ain't that bad. Are you crazy? 100 million? Why do pandemics keep coming from the same area? And we know that the most people live in those areas. This stuff here killed more than any war ever has. Wars don't kill that many people. But when you talk about stuff that become airborne, don't nobody want to deal with that kind of stuff. Because how you contain airborne stuff? We all gonna breathe. The one thing about when people wanted to, when they wanted to hand off smallpox blankets to the Indians, all they do was get rid of the blankets and burn them. When you got something that's airborne, you ain't breathing no different air than everybody else. Now, this is a game though. Nobody want to play right here. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. You had something?
Yeah. You know, a couple months ago, they had something in the news about the U.S. sending chicken to China for some kind of repackaging.
And bring them back here.
Bring them back here. So that was strange to me also.
Man, everything they do is strange here. You have people, because of all of this, there's a whole lot of people that said, you know, they won't even buy the fish that come out of certain packages of Walmart because that fish is coming from China, and understanding what they're doing with that fish. So it's some real strange things that are happening when hungry countries start turning your food back. That has something not right, brother. Go ahead.
Originated from China over 2,000 years ago. Scientists from several countries wrote in the medical journal Nature Genetics. Genome sequencing has allowed the researchers to reconstruct plague pandemics from the Black Death to the late 1800s. Black Death and the plague. The plague is an infectious disease caused by a bacterium called Yersinia pestis. The Black Death is one huge plague event, pandemic in history.
And now that they've isolated that, they actually have that thing that they have to guard. They know what it does. Do you understand? That get in the wrong hands and half the earth dead. Go to the next graphic.
The Black Death is known as one of the deadliest and widespread pandemics in history. It peaked in Europe between 1348 and 1350 and is thought to have been a bubonic plague outbreak caused by Yersinia pestis, a bacterium.
Right. Now, there's some things you'll find some people going back and forth, but they say the whole song, the Ring Around the Rosie, Pocket Full of Posies, that whole thing was about the Black Death. It was about the sore that they get and then the rash that come around it, and then they all fall down. They all fall down and die. They die within days when they get it. Go ahead.
It reached the Crimea in 1346 and most likely spread via fleas on black rats that traveled on merchant ships.
Now, understand, there are people eating these rats. Go ahead.
It soon spread through the Mediterranean and Europe. The Black Death is thought to have destroyed 30 to 60% of Europe's population.
30 to 60% of Europe's population. Go ahead.
Experts say it took 150 years for Europe to recover its population size.
Right. So when people say that, you think Europe killed their own people? Right. Go ahead.
The plague came back several times until the 19th century, when it left Europe for good. Most victims died with 2 or 7 days of becoming infected.
2 to 7 days. Go ahead.
The authors in this new study say the plague evolved around the area of China over 2,000 years ago and spread globally several times as deadly pandemics. They compared 17 complete plague genome sequences as well as 933 variable DNA sites on a unique worldwide collection of bacterial strains, plague isolates, allowing them to follow pandemics that took place in history around the world and to work out the age of different waves of them. The majority of pandemics were associated with known major historical events, such as the Black Death. As none of the collections of isolates from individual scientific institutions were globally representative, the scientists explained that in order to understand the historical sources of plagues, all the institutions would have to work together.
Which makes that very difficult, especially with this particular thing, because they ain't trying to put that in anybody's hands to even try to research this thing again, because if that one thing get out, we got some issues. Go to the next graphic. We should be on graphic 17.
In order to prevent bioterrorism, access to Yersinia pestis, the bacterium known to be the cause of the plagues, is seriously restricted. Therefore, assembling a comprehensive collection of them is impossible. An international team of scientists from the UK, USA, Ireland, Germany, Madagascar, China, and France had to collaborate for a decentralized analysis of DNA samples. Their findings reveal a detailed history of the pandemic spread of a bacterial disease in a way never seen before. Pandemic infectious diseases have affected humans ever since we set foot on this planet. The authors explain they have shaped the form of civilizations. The researchers revealed that the plague Bacillus developed near or in China and via multiple epidemics was transmitted through several different routes, such as into West Asia through the Silk Road and Africa between 1409 and 1433 by Chinese travelers under explorer Zheng He.
Right. So people go from place to place, take the germs and bacteria of where they come from and kill off all the other people. A lot of y'all probably don't remember when that we read in them school books. When the Europeans first came out here, y'all know how many natives they killed off? Because they brought some germs with them from Europe that the natives had zero immunity to. And we don't consider that we might go somewhere and those people have built up immunity because, you know, they've been eating mashed palm civets for a while. Here you go, you have zero immunity. You dead in hours. That's what happened when people came here. They had zero immunity to the germs and bacteria in Europe. And they was just dying off. What? Like it was going out of style. What's going on? Immunity. Consider something. Have y'all thought about that your immune system is contained in your gut? Do you know that your immune system is in your stomach? Right. Read, man.
The Black Death made its way through Asia, Europe, and Africa from 1347 to 1351, and probably brought the world's then 450 million population down to 350 million. Approximately 50% of Chinese population perished, while Europe's went down by a third and Africa by an eighth.
Right. And you consider in Africa, they do those same things. They call it bushmeat.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? Where they'll eat coyote and all these other strange animals and things like that. Putting all kind of issues off into their body. Let's go to Genesis chapter 3. So maybe the next time we consider clean and unclean, maybe we'll deal with that from a totally different perspective instead of just thinking that it's just about the food. Are you considering the diseases and the ailments that are going to come behind that? Genesis chapter 3, and I tell you what, brother, start that at verse 1. We should be at graphic number 18.
And the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, as Elohim said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, You shall not surely die.
Right. See? So, this is what the game is. You got to look at this on several levels. See? If they don't die immediately, they don't see it as poison. He said, if you eat from it, you're going to die. Here come the serpent with his slick, double-tongued self. I offer you a different type of understanding. Go ahead.
But you know, even just like we were told, what we just read, don't even touch the carcass. He told him, don't even touch the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So that was your first roadblock. Don't touch the tree.
Mm-hmm. And what does the serpent do? This is what's interesting. Why would we want to hang out with anything that then does and upholds the beginning fall of man? Why would I want a snake around my neck? It is the first beginning thing of the fall of man. So I don't want it around my neck. I sure don't want it on my table. Go ahead.
For Elohim does know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Yahweh Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden.
Right. Sin separates you from Yahweh, your Elohim. Whether you do it yourself or whether it does it for you. One way or another, you're going to be separated from your Creator. Go ahead.
And Yahweh Elohim called unto Adam, and said unto him, Where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told you that you was naked? Have you eaten of the tree whereof I commanded you that you should not eat?
Mm-hmm. Why do you even understand nakedness? Go ahead.
And the man said, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the woman, What is this that you have done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat.
Right. So here is where we get down to the whole kit and caboodle. And the woman said, the serpent tricked me and I did eat. Go ahead.
And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon your belly shall you go.
Stop. We read everything that goes on his belly is an abomination unto you. So Yahweh cursed it, took away its legs, made it go on its belly, and then later on gave you the law that it was an abomination to you and that you should stay away from it. Go ahead.
And thus shall you eat all the days of your life. And I'll put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel.
Right. When you see a snake, the first thing you're supposed to think,
I need to step on this thing. I need to do something. I got to get away from here.
that's supposed to be your automatic reaction. You were never supposed to look at a snake and be, that looks delicious. There's something wrong in your thought process there. Go ahead.
Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. And unto Adam he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. In sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread, till you return unto the ground. For out of it was you taken, for dust you art, and unto dust shall you return.
So, in with this serpent or this snake comes the woman has stepped down in a level of her creation. Her focus is to her husband. She has been given childbirth in sorrow and pain. And then the man has to now work at a whole nother level that he did not have to work before. All of this comes from dealing with the serpent. Now, if we at the job and one of your co-workers come and say something about you to the boss, and you got to work 2 extra hours that day, you're going to be a different kind of look when you see him tomorrow. He's going to be a different kind of look. Because he made you work harder. Now, this serpent brought forth more work. What you want to put it around your neck and put it on your table for? All the problems came in through it. There's something wrong when you want to hang with it. Go to the next graphic. Go to graphic number 19, and let's read the definition of enmity. In verse 15, it says, I will put enmity between you and the woman. Go ahead.
From H342, Abah. From H340, hostility, enmity, hatred.
So, there's supposed to be a hatred set between what it says, not just you, but between you and your seed. So the kid is supposed to automatically have a hatred of snakes. It was supposed to be passed down from their mama. Because all of the problems came in through it. Go to graphic number 20.
Snakes could be the original source of the new coronavirus outbreak in China. A study of the virus's genetic sequence suggests similarities to that seen in snakes, but the origin must still be verified. The following essay is reprinted with the permission from the Conversation, an online publication covering the latest research. Snakes, the Chinese krayt and the Chinese cobra, may be the original source of the newly discovered coronavirus that has triggered an outbreak of a deadly infectious respiratory illness in China this winter.
Now, understand something. In some places you'll read that it's the bat that caused it. In other places you'll read that it was the snake. Do understand that snakes eat bats? And then if you eat the snake, you just ate everything it ate. It ain't hard to draw the line. Go ahead.
The many-banded krayt, also known as the Taiwanese cryet or the Chinese cryet, is a highly venomous species of elipid snake found in much of central and southern China and Southeast Asia. In the case of this 2019 coronavirus outbreak, reports state that most of the first group of patients hospitalized were workers or customers at a local seafood wholesale market, which also sold processed meats and live consumable animals, including poultry, donkeys, sheep.
Okay, you should be at graphic number 21, and I want you to see all this raw meat all beside one another. And we're trying to figure out how everybody, how this stuff is just passing from one thing to the next thing. All right. So then you go in there to get something that's actually clean, but it's been hanging right beside a Palm Mass Civet. Now you go and cook whatever that is, but it's got that other juice in it now. Go ahead.
Pigs, camels, foxes, badgers, bamboo rats.
Bamboo rats. Okay, now, my son said this to me this morning. My youngest boy. He said, wow, so 2020, the year of the rat, started with a plague. You know they're supposed to be keeping their Chinese New Year? They abandoned the Chinese New Year. Said, don't keep it. Because the pandemic too bad. Go ahead, man.
Hedgehogs, and reptiles. However, since no one has ever reported finding a coronavirus infecting aquatic animals, it is plausible that the coronavirus may have originated from other animals sold in that market. The hypothesis that the 2019 NCOV jumped from an animal at the market is strongly supported by a new publication in the Journal of Medical Virology. The scientists conducted an analysis and compared the genetic sequences of 2019 NCOV,
which is what they're calling this one. Go ahead.
And all other known coronaviruses. The study of the genetic code of 2019 NCOV reveals that the new virus is most closely related to two bat SARS-like coronavirus samples from China, initially suggesting that, like SARS and MERS,
which is Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. Go ahead.
The bat might also be the origin of 2019 NCOV. The authors further found that the DNA coding sequences of 2019 NCOV spike protein, which forms the crown of the virus particle that recognizes the receptor on a host cell, indicates that the bat virus might have mutated before infecting people.
Right. So then you consider when Yahweh was setting forth the things that were clean in Leviticus chapter 11, he was setting forth how the animal was made and what the animal ate. When people decide to eat a snake, you are eating what it ate. It ate bats. Then you eating bats. Go ahead.
But when the researchers performed a more detailed bioinformatics analysis of the sequence of 2019 NCOV, it suggests that this coronavirus might come from snakes.
All right, go to graphic number 22, and I want you to look at this here. This is like a little price list, if you will, of all the disgusting animals that are being sold for consumption. And these things can have disease in them that does not bother them. But it causes a serious problem with humans. And Yahweh said that there's supposed to be a dividing line there. So when Yahshua comes back to set a righteous governmental system, don't think he's just going to ignore people and let them do what they want to do in their land. Because that stuff is causing issues all over the earth. And they are not being truthful about how many people got this illness. When you have to take down posts and lie about what's going on, see, it's stuff like this that make you not want to go into large public events. Because here it is, you get something, you don't know what it is, you have zero immunity to it, but at least those people have immunity to it. They've been eating mass palm civets. You got zero immunity. You may die for hours out. Go to the next graphic.
From bats to snakes. The researchers used an analysis of the protein codes favored by the new coronavirus and compared it to the protein codes from coronaviruses found in different animal hosts, like birds, snakes, marmots, hedgehogs, mantis, bats, and humans. Surprisingly, they found that the protein codes in the 2019 NCOV are most similar to those used in snakes. Snakes often hunt for bats in wild. Reports indicate that snakes were sold in the local seafood market in Wuhan.
Right. They sitting there going to buy snake meat. And this same thing, you have to keep going back and forth. You find the same thing with the SARS. You find the same thing going back and forth with this dealing with all of these unclean things. It causes an issue. And this is one of the things that we just don't want to deal with. We want to research everything in the cheese, but not pay attention to this stuff. That's straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel. There's something backwards about that. Go ahead.
Raising the possibility that the 2019 NCOV might have jumped from the host species, bats, to snakes, and then to humans at the beginning of this coronavirus outbreak. However, how the virus could adapt to both the cold-blooded and warm-blooded hosts remains a mystery.
You have to wonder if it attaches itself more to individuals who have consumed that certain meat. They don't really know. Go ahead.
The authors of the report and other researchers must verify the origin of the virus through laboratory experiments. Searching for the 2019 NCOV sequence in snakes would be the first thing to do. However, since the outbreak, the seafood market has been disinfected and shut down, which makes it challenging to trace the new virus source animal. Sampling DNA from animals sold at the market and from wild snakes and bats is needed to confirm the origin of the virus. Nonetheless, the reported findings will also provide insights for developing prevention and treatment protocols.
All right, go to graphic number 24. I want you to look at these things of what it lists as the symptoms. And it's very interesting when you look at this. They actually have temperature reading things at airports now, because the people end up having a fever. But, you know, this is why some of the people were saying it was completely useless, because there's an incubation period of like 5 to 15 days or something like that where they won't have a temperature. So the symptoms, coronavirus attacks the cells in the respiratory system, a runny nose, a cough, sore throat, high temperature. I'm just not getting over the cold. You know how hard it was to do this class and I got a cold? I'm like, man, do I have a corona? Mess with your mental. And it's common cold stuff, man. You go from common cold stuff to now you can't walk and you pass out. Do we now see the importance of eating clean? See, why a whole bunch of people got to die for us to realize,
You know what? Yahweh law does make sense.
spread. Novel coronavirus first spread to humans from an animal thought to be a snake at the South China seafood wholesale market. The virus is transmitted between humans in droplets from coughing and sneezing and touching or shaking hands. So you go from some people eating the snakes to now the other people just around some folks who ate some snake. So now we got to have a snake discussion.
How you doing? You ate any snake lately? I'm just wondering. I was just hanging out. I was just wondering if you know what I'm saying, dined on any snakes. Just a question.
It enters humans through the nose, mouth, then finds a host cell in the respiratory system, such as one in the nose. The host cell then bursts, and other nearby cells in the body are infected with the virus. Death. Most victims die from complications including pneumonia and from swelling in the lungs. Severe pneumonia can kill people by causing them to drown in the fluid flooding their lungs. The virus also causes swelling in the respiratory system, which can make it hard for the lungs to pass oxygen into the bloodstream, leading to organ failure and death. There was a note on one of those things that says the 2019 NCOV outbreak is another reminder that people should limit the consumption of wild animals to prevent zoonotic infection. Zoonotic infections are things that people catch from these animals. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 3. See, it's one of those things sometimes that you don't want to going over clean and unclean, because, you know, people be like, you know, that ain't exciting. It ain't exciting to read clean and unclean. I tell you what, 100 million people dying, how exciting is that for you? You want some excitement? That'll be some excitement for you. Folk leave home to go to work and don't never come back. That's exciting enough for you? Proverbs chapter 3, let's start that at verse 1.
My son, forget not my law, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to you.
Right. Long life, his law add to you in one way, because you ain't eating that mess. That's a part of your long life and health right there. Eat according to Yahweh's word. Go ahead.
Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them about your neck. Write them upon the table of your heart. So shall you find favor and good understanding in the sight of Elohim and man. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart and lean not onto your own understanding.
That way, we don't try to make a way that we can still go against Yahweh's word and still prosper. Go ahead.
In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths.
If we acknowledge him at our dinner table, there's certain things that ain't going to be at the table. If we acknowledge Yahweh's word, there's certain things that we're not going to even allow to come in our circle. Okay, brother?
To even, deal with that whole thing with the length of days. You have doctors that tell people that, look, stay away from the pork. It's messing you up.
Doctors will tell people to stay away from the pork after they get sick. You have to normally get sick before the doctor tell you to stay away from the pork. Till your neck got to swell up and that little vein, you know what I'm saying, show up on this side and one of them in your eyeball.
You'd be like, why is that vein in your eyeball? You know what? You need to stop eating that pork.
It's been poison. It ain't just now started being poison. See? But what happened is now your body full of that poison. And we don't do things like cleansing to dump our bodies of impurities. So it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. And sooner or later, your body like, hey, I done had enough of this. You can trick your body to deal with poison for a long time. There are people that have taken cyanide and didn't die because they put little bitty amounts of cyanide in their stuff bit by bit. So then they can take a heavier dose of cyanide and not die. Trick their body. They trick their body into becoming immune to it. But do understand the long-term effects of whatever that was you was doing, it is still going to be there. You seen all of the, the stories about Rick James and all the drugs he used. Right before Rick James died, did you see how many ailments he had? I mean, he had kidney issues, a pacemaker. Boy, he had everything. That long-term cocaine use was tearing up at that body. You might still live from poisoning yourself, but you're going to have some issues. And sooner or later, all them issues going to converge on top of one another. And then it's going to be issue on issue on issue on issue and on issue. And imagine if you already got an issue. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 7. Be not wise in your own eyes, fear Yahweh, and depart from evil. It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones.
It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones. Yahweh's law is your best health plan. Everything else start after that. But see, we don't see that in his law. All we have been given at times is we just see instruction. Don't do this. Don't do that. So we see it as instruction. We don't see that Yahweh is protecting you. Stay away from this. Why he got to explain to you, oh, I made diseases to be able to live in them. How about you just follow my instructions? Stay away from this. It is not to be consumed. It should not be on your dinner table. And just to make sure you got it, you might not want to hang out with the people who decide to eat this. Because now you died and you didn't even eat it. Now, that's got to be a real, ooh, boy, that got to be a hard pill to swallow. You didn't eat the snake, but you got the heebie-jeebies from somebody who ate the snake. Wait a minute, I didn't eat the snake. Now, you in a hospital on ventilation machine talking to Yahweh, but I didn't eat it. I didn't eat the snake, they did. Yeah, but it says, you sought pleasure in them that violated Yahweh's law. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Honor Yahweh with your substance and with the first fruits of all your increase. So shall your barns be filled with plenty, and your presses shall burst out with new wine. My son, despise not the chastening of Yahweh, neither be weary of his correction. For whom Yahweh loves, he corrects, even as a father the son in whom he delights.
If he love you, he gonna send somebody to smack you on your hand and say, don't do that. Well, he don't care nothing about you. Go ahead, put that snake. Won't you dip that snake in that sauce? It tastes better. Go ahead. Yeah, go get a little bit of morsels of death. Yes, go ahead. But when he love you, he smack you. Stop. He sends somebody to tell you, don't do that. But we don't care about you. Go right ahead. Let your daddy the devil deal with that. Go ahead.
Happy is the man that finds wisdom, and the man that gets understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all things you can desire are not to be compared unto her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor.
Length of days. Pleasant length of days. Understand something? You can live long and be miserable. Go ahead.
Her ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retains her.
She is a tree of life. She's not a tree of knowledge. The tree of life is the one that lets you live forever. Tree of knowledge is the one that got you in trouble. Read.
Yahweh by wisdom has founded the earth. By understanding has he established the heavens. By his knowledge the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. My son, let not them depart from your eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall they be life unto your soul, and grace to your neck. Then shall you walk in your way safely, and your foot shall not stumble. When you lie down, you shall not be afraid. Yes, you shall lie down, and your sleep shall be sweet. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it comes. For Yahweh shall be your confidence, and shall keep your foot from being taken. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hand to do it. Say not to your neighbor, Go and come again, and tomorrow I will give, when you have it by you. Devise not evil against your neighbor, seeing he dwells securely by you. Strive not with a man without cause, if he has done you no harm. Envy you not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
We have a real problem with that verse right there. See, we envy the oppressor when we see the things that they are able to do, and Yahweh does not chastise them immediately. So then now we are emboldened to try those very things. See? All man had to do was see his wife eat from the tree that he knew he wasn't supposed to eat from. Automatically, he was motivated to eat from that same tree. So what you think we do? We watch the oppressor, we watch how they live, we watch what they do, then we want to do it. Because nothing happens to them for doing it. At least not right away. Go ahead.
For the froward is abomination to Yahweh, but his secret is with the righteous. The curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked, but he blessed the habitation of the just. Surely he scorns the scorners, but he gives grace unto the lowly. The wise shall inherit glory, but shame shall be the promotion of fools.
All right, let's go to graphic number 27, and I want you to read this definition here.
Health from H7500. Rifuth from H7495. A cure. Health.
Now, if you look at these things on this graphic, it's healing herbs and spices and things that Yahweh has brought forth out of his earth to do certain things. These are things that our people knew about. And, you know, it's amazing that you have to sometimes go to the older people to even find any of this information anymore. But then we have taken certain things and turned them into something else. Right down here on the bottom left, you have sage, which is an antiseptic and antibiotic. Because them witches use sage, now you got our folk walk around, well, man, they the sage, man, they in some witchcraft. What? You're playing, right? But you see how other people can take the things that Yahweh has made, and now because somebody else is burning sage, now they must be witches. Now, a witch might use it. That don't make it witchcraft. If you do, Yahweh made this. What somebody do with it is their business. That ain't got nothing to do with what you do with it. Now we scared to deal with certain things because somebody said. I saw them witches, and them witches had, every time I watched that witch show, they had some sage on it. So I stay away from that sage. See, I don't want to be no witch. Me and the witch can shop at the same store for all I care.
Yeah, give me 2 bags of what that witch just got.
Don't matter to me. My Elohim made this. You ain't gonna, see, you don't let man tell you what a sin is. Yahweh's law tells you what sin is. Sin is the transgression of the law. If it ain't no law against it, it's not sin. Man don't get to dictate that. You don't let man dictate that. But you also don't let man convince you to get off into some mess either. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 66. Isaiah 66, and let's read verses 15 through 21.
For, behold, Yahweh will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire.
And people can't figure out what he mad for. What you think he mad for? We have a problem following instructions. So Yahshua ain't coming with a bunch of roses to hug on people. Go ahead.
For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh and the abomination and the mouse,
Right?
shall be consumed together, says Yahweh.
Right. And the mouse is another so-called delicacy that they eat in places. They really enjoy eating the rat. Go ahead.
For I know their works and their thoughts. It shall come that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my glory. And I'll set a sign among them, and I'll send those that escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pul, and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Yavan, to the isles afar off, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my glory. And they shall declare my glory among the Gentiles. And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto Yahweh out of all nations upon horses, and in chariots, and in litters, and upon mules, and upon swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, says Yahweh, as the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel unto the house of Yah. And I will also take of them for priests and for Levites, says Yahweh.
All right. Brother, read the, go to the next graphic there. We should be at graphic number 29.
Wow.
Now this is another thing that's eaten on the earth, and this is also right around the same area. They eat all of these things. They say these rats are better than other rats. See, they classify their rats. Go ahead, bro.
Wild rats are very different. They eat different foods, said Mr. Shem, explaining with a gourmand's intensity the difference between rice field rats and their urban cousins, which he considers vermin unfit for the cooking pot.
So just the city rats are unfit for the pot. Okay? Just the city ones, because them hood rats. You understand? See, those are hood rats. Everybody know you don't deal with a hood rat. You know what I'm saying? So what we look for is urban rats. Okay, all right, okay, I got it now. I got it now. All this time I've been thinking hood rat was something else. You know? Go ahead, bro.
Common rats are dirty.
Common rats. Go ahead.
Are dirty and they have a lot of scabies on their skin, Mr. Chim said. That's why we don't catch them. Somewhat proudly, he listed off the superior eating habits of the rats he had caught the night before.
They have superior eating habits. See, you need to know this. See, these are the kind of things that you need to know before you start dealing with situations. Like, so I remember being in school and finding out that, I was joking with a dude one day, and I was like, man, you eat cat, don't you? He said, no, man, nobody eat a cat. I said, we eat dog. I almost passed out in the cafeteria. You eat dog? That was their culture. I ain't have a dog, but I sure wasn't going to leave it around here. Go ahead.
Rice stalks, the vegetable crops of unlucky local farmers, and the roots of wild plants.
Right. So he said, these healthy rats, see, they don't eat nothing but rice. Go to the next graphic.
Tastes like pork. On a good night, he can catch up to 25 kilograms of rats.
Check that out. Go ahead.
At the Cambodia-Vietnam border crossing in the Co Thum district, Thong Tuan, 30, sat beneath a tin roof in the morning heat and overpowering stench of rodent odor, efficiently chopping and skinning a batch of large, dark gray rats. Reaching into a deep cage, her young helper, Min, 13, grabbed rat after rat by fleshy tails and, in a fast, swirling wrist action, dispatched each one against a large rock. Customers in the nearby Vietnamese town like to buy her biggest rats, fresh and ready to eat.
How can you use the word fresh and ready to eat and rat in that same sentence? Hey, but wait a minute. This is the year of the rat. Hey, learned that from my son this morning. Year of the rat. Rats is what caused the last plague. The year of the rat began with a plague. They have decorations, and all their New Year's things are abandoned. Not one person celebrating the new year they're at. Go ahead.
Said Mrs. Twain, who is Vietnamese and runs the largest rat trading operation at this border gate. People come from far and wide to buy.
Consider that. It's a big commodity. People coming from all around. Go ahead.
They like the big fat ones.
They like the big fat ones, baby. Go ahead.
She said, comparing her own substantial calf muscle to the size of the rats her Vietnamese customers prefer to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Mrs. Twain reminded me, it's more delicious than pork.
Check that out. It's sad, ain't it? But let us hit a conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4. So maybe the next time we think about clean or unclean, instead of thinking about that within, and it is amazing to me that we will spend all of this time researching the most minute thing and not consider how deep this thing is and how much disease and things it's going to add to us and in the earth by dealing with the things that we're not supposed to be eating. And then have pleasure in hanging out with the people who do. Hey, I have friends who I knew did some illegal things. I enjoyed their company. Eventually, I had to separate myself from their company. Birds of a feather flock together. Sooner or later, when they came to bust them for their illegal activities, they was going to take me too.
They wasn't going to say, you know what, Esaac, we've been watching. We know that you have not been doing those things. We're going to leave you.
No, they throwing me in the paddy wagon right with them. Yeah, maybe they was funneling money through his organization. Let's throw him in the bag too. Deuteronomy chapter 4, and let's read verses 1 through 10. What you got, bro?
You know, even with this situation, it's normal for them. They see nothing wrong with it. So we have to consider when we go into these establishments to eat, if we order some chicken and they look around and say, well, we out of chicken, man, cut that up and throw that in there.
Exactly.
They ain't gonna know the difference.
Bro, I keep telling people that when something has been normalized, it does not seem taboo at all. And let me tell you something. Just us saying our law, if you think about in that last graphic, I don't know if y'all saw it, where the people was in the pot, there was bloody rat pot, and they got their hands all stuck off in that, cooking that. So think about that same individual is now making your chicken. They just had their hands in bloody rat meat. Go ahead, bro.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that you may live and go in and possess the land which Yahweh Elohim of your fathers give you.
Mm-hmm.
You shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, which I command you.
You shall not add unto the word. See, when people say, well, you know, such and such has been cleansed by the invention of the refrigerator, you have lied on Yahweh. You have lied unto Yahweh your Elohim. Go ahead.
Your eyes have seen what Yahweh did because of Baal Peor. For all the men that followed Baal Peor, Yahweh your Elohim has destroyed them from among you. But you that did cleave unto Yahweh your Elohim are alive, every one of you this day. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahweh my Elohim commanded me, that you should do so in the land, whether you go to possess it.
Yahweh said, look here, this is the law of the land that I'm about to give you. Act like you done heard. Act like you know something. Go ahead.
Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations.
Pay attention. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. Go ahead.
We shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
Right. See, when they realize that ain't no pandemics among you, That you ain't out eating palm mass civets? Say, man, we need to go with them because we have heard that Yahweh is with them. Go ahead.
For what nation is there so great, who has Elohim so near unto them, as Yahweh our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great, that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law?
Do you know that? Do you know that? What nation is there so great that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law? You got to see 100 million people die for you to realize that your law is righteous? You got to witness people passing out and dying in the street to realize that your law is righteous? Go ahead, bro.
Which I set before you this day. Only take heed to yourself, and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. But teach them your sons and your sons' sons.
Right. So when you got off and start looking and licking your lip at the snake, your son was supposed to come in the room. Daddy, you tripping. We can't eat that. See? It says out of the mouth of babes. Sometimes your kids have to remind the grown-ups. The grown-ups supposed to be teaching the kids. Sometimes they have to tell you, man, what you doing? You can't eat that. Put that down. And when they get old, you will have to do that. I remember the people, one of my eldest daughter, having to tell him. He ended up having cancer. The cancer spread to his brain. The man who had been teaching for 30, 40 years ended up saying something one day about a pork chop. The cancer had infected his brain. His daughter had to say, Daddy, you can't eat that. It went days later, he was dead. So you don't just teach your kids for your kids. You teach your kids right. And them very kids might be the one that have to tell you right. When you get old and your thought process ain't quite right, now it's going to show what you didn't teach them. Then you sitting up there with a kufi on and a pork chop in your mouth. Now what's wrong with that picture? And if you ain't deal with them right, they going to sit there and let you eat it. Go ahead, Daddy, go eat it. That's what you get for being nasty to me all them years. They sit there and let you eat it. Go ahead, bro.
Especially the day that you stood before Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb, when Yahweh said unto me, gather me the people together, and I'll make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children.
Right. And do we want to teach our children, or do we want to be friends to our children? See? Are we so busy trying to be friends to them that we can't teach them what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do? We got to figure out if we're going to be parents or we're going to be friends. I ain't got time to be your friend. I got a job to do. Thus says Yahweh, this will not be done. As it is written, as for this house, we're going to serve Yahweh, our Elohim. This is how things are going to go in this house. I ain't voting. I don't have a voting system. People don't get to vote.
So can we vote whether or not we're going to eat some pork?
No, we cannot. That is not on the ballots. We're not dealing with that at all. But that's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.